I'm 72 years old, and 3 years ago, my landlord tried to throw me out of the apartment I'd lived in for 19 years. He didn't follow the law, he didn't give proper notice. He just wanted me gone, and he thought I was too old to fight back. He was wrong. I'm telling you this because I won, but winning cost me almost everything I had, and I need you to understand what that actually means before you decide whether fighting is worth it. For 19 years, I rented a 2-bedroom apartment in a converted Victorian in Oakland. Rent-controlled. That's important. When I moved in, back in 2002, I was paying $850 a month. By 2021, I was paying $1,240. Meanwhile, the market rate for that same apartment had climbed to around $2,800, maybe more. I loved that apartment. Big windows, hardwood floors, a little balcony where I grew tomatoes. Every summer, my daughter and her kids could visit and actually have space to sleep. I knew my neighbors. I knew which floorboard creaked when you walked to the bathroom at night. The building changed hands in 2019. New owner. Some LLC I'd never heard of. For the first year and a half, nothing changed. Rent came out of my account on the first of every month, just like always. I kept the place clean, reported problems when they came up, stayed out of everyone's way. Then in March of 2021, I got a letter slipped under my door. It said I had 30 days to vacate. No explanation, just 30 days, and then legal action would follow. I read that letter 3 times standing in my kitchen. My hands were shaking. 30 days. I'd lived there 19 years, and they were giving me 30 days. I called the number on the letter. Got a property manager named Eric. I asked him why I was being evicted. He said the owner wanted to move a family member into the unit. I said, fine, but don't I get 60 days notice under California law? Don't you have to prove the family member is actually moving in? He said 30 days was what I was getting, and if I didn't like it, I could talk to a lawyer. So I did. I made an appointment with a tenant rights clinic in Berkeley, free consultation. I brought the letter, my lease, every rent receipt I'd kept. The lawyer, young woman, maybe 30, looked at the letter for about 10 seconds and said, "This isn't legal." She explained it to me. Under the Ellis Act and Costa-Hawkins, a landlord in a rent-controlled unit can evict for owner move-in, but they have to give 60 days notice, minimum if you've lived there more than a year. They have to file specific paperwork with the city. They have to prove the family member is actually moving in and intends to stay for at least 3 years, and they have to pay relocation assistance, about $7,000 in my case. None of that had happened, just a letter under my door. The lawyer said I could fight it, but it would take time, and I'd need to respond in writing immediately. She helped me draft a letter. I sent it certified mail the next day. It said I was not vacating. The eviction notice was legally insufficient, and I would defend my tenancy. That's when things got nasty. 2 weeks later, they filed an unlawful detainer lawsuit. That's the formal eviction process. I had 5 days to respond, or I'd lose by default. I couldn't afford a private attorney. I made too much for free legal aid. $32,000 a year from Social Security and a small pension. But not enough to pay a lawyer $300 an hour. The tenant clinic could only help with paperwork, not represent me in court. So I represented myself. I filed my response. I checked every box that applied. Improper notice, failure to follow relocation ordinance, retaliatory eviction. I attached copies of everything. The first hearing was in May 2021. I showed up at the courthouse at 8:30 in the morning, sat in a hallway for 2 hours, and finally got called into a courtroom. The landlord's attorney, slick guy in his 40s, expensive suit, argued that I was a holdover tenant refusing to leave. I argued that I'd never been properly served notice and that the eviction was illegal. The judge, an older man who looked about as tired as I felt, set a trial date for August. He told me I had to keep paying rent into an escrow account in the meantime. If I missed a payment, I'd lose automatically. I paid every month on time. Those 3 months, I barely slept. I was working part-time at a library, and every spare moment I was reading. California tenant law, Ellis Act cases, unlawful detainer procedures. I made binders. I printed out every email, every notice, every receipt. I took photos of the apartment from every angle to prove I was maintaining it. My daughter thought I was losing my mind. She kept saying, "Maybe you should just move. This is too much stress." And she was right. It was destroying me. But I couldn't let it go. It wasn't about the apartment anymore. It was about the fact that they thought I'd just roll over. The trial got continued. Twice. First to October, then to January 2022. Every time I'd prepare, show up, and get told to come back in 3 months. Meanwhile, I was still paying into escrow, still waking up at 3 a.m., wondering if I was about to lose my home. In January 2022, we finally had the trial. It lasted 6 hours over 2 days. I presented my evidence: the insufficient notice, the lack of relocation payment, the fact that they'd never filed the required owner move-in paperwork with the city. The landlord's attorney brought in the owner's nephew, said he was the family member moving in. I asked him questions. Where do you live now? When are you planning to move? Do you have a job here? He stammered through every answer. It was obvious he had no intention of actually living there. I also brought records showing the landlord had listed the unit on Zillow at $2,950 a month the same week they served me the eviction notice. They took it down fast, but I'd screenshotted it. The judge took 2 weeks to issue a ruling. I got the notification in my mailbox on a Wednesday. My hands were shaking so badly I almost couldn't open the envelope. I won. The judge ruled the eviction was retaliatory and pretextual. They hadn't followed proper procedure. They hadn't proven a legitimate owner move-in. The unlawful detainer was dismissed with prejudice, meaning they couldn't refile. I sat on my couch and cried for 20 minutes, but that wasn't the end of it. 3 months later, they served me with another notice. This time, they claimed I was violating the lease by having unauthorized occupants. My daughter had stayed with me for 2 weeks after a surgery. They'd seen her car in the driveway. I filed another response. They backed off. Then in September 2022, they tried again. This time they claimed I'd made unauthorized alterations to the unit. I'd replaced a broken toilet seat with my own money, with the same model that was there before. I was so tired. I'd been fighting for a year and a half. I'd spent maybe $3,000 on filing fees, process servers, copying costs, parking, gas to the courthouse. I'd lost weight. My blood pressure was through the roof, but I filed another response. That case got dismissed too. The judge was clearly annoyed. He told the landlord's attorney that continued harassment of a tenant could result in sanctions. They finally stopped in December 2022. I think they realized I wasn't going anywhere. And every time they filed something, it cost them attorney's fees and made them look worse. The total count: 3 separate eviction attempts over 18 months, all dismissed. In March 2023, 2 years after this started, the building sold again. New owner, local guy, who actually returned my calls. He honored the original lease. Rent went up by the legal maximum, about $65, and that was it. I'm still in that apartment. Same place, same tomatoes on the balcony. I'm 72 now, and I'm not moving unless I decide to. But here's what it cost me. I spent close to $5,000 total on legal fees, court costs, and everything that came with fighting. I used up all my savings. I lost 20 pounds from stress. My daughter and I barely spoke for 6 months because she thought I was being stubborn and self-destructive. I had panic attacks, real ones. I'd wake up at night, convinced I was going to lose, convinced I'd end up homeless, convinced I'd made a huge mistake by fighting instead of just leaving. There were days I wished I'd just taken the 30 days and found somewhere else to live. But I didn't, and I won. So here's what I learned. First, document everything, every email, every notice, every conversation. Take photos, keep receipts. If you don't have proof, you don't have a case. Second, know your rights. I spent hours reading the law, and that's what saved me. Most tenants don't know what protections they have, and landlords count on that. Third, if they're trying to illegally evict you, it's usually because they want you out so they can charge more rent. That's what this was about. They wanted my $1,240 apartment so they could get $3,000 from someone else. Fourth, the system is slow and expensive and exhausting, but it can work. I represented myself because I had no choice, and I still won. It's possible. Fifth, you have to decide what you're willing to sacrifice. I sacrificed my savings, my peace of mind, and my relationship with my daughter for a while. I got my apartment back, but it cost me. You need to know what you're willing to lose before you start fighting. Last thing, they count on you being too tired, too scared, or too old to fight back. That's the whole strategy. Wear you down until you give up. Don't give up.